The keys felt heavy and cold in my palm, but to me, they felt like pure magic. For 3 years, my husband, Liam, and I had saved every single penny, sacrificing vacations, dinners out, and new clothes just to afford a place of our own. And finally, we had done it. We bought a beautiful, historic 2-story house on the edge of town. It was surrounded by ancient willow trees, had a massive wraparound porch, and possessed a charm that modern houses just couldn't match. The price had been shockingly low for its size, which our realtor attributed to the previous owner, an elderly man named Arthur, wanting a quick cash sale after his wife passed away. We felt like we had won the lottery. For the first 6 days, the house was a dream. Liam and I spent our evenings painting the living room, arranging furniture, and laughing about how we were finally homeowners. The only minor quirk was the old, heavy oak door at the very end of the basement corridor. It was locked tight with a heavy brass padlock. Arthur had told us it just contained old plumbing blueprints and spare structural tiles, promising he would mail us the key once he settled into his new assisted living facility. We didn't think twice about it. We were too busy being happy. Then came the 7th day. The forbidden call. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Liam was at work, and I was alone in the kitchen, organizing the pantry shelves. The house was quiet, save for the rhythmic tapping of rain against the windowpane. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was an unknown number. "Hello," I answered, wiping a layer of dust from my hands. "Claire," a voice whispered. It was raspy, strained, and instantly recognizable. It was Arthur, the former owner. But he didn't sound like the polite, gentle old man we had met at the closing table. He sounded terrified, his breath coming in short, ragged gasps. "Arthur, yes, it's Claire. Is everything okay? Did you find the key to the basement padlock?" "Listen to me very carefully, Claire," Arthur interrupted, his voice dropping into a harsh, urgent whisper. "Do not speak. Just listen. Is Liam with you right now?" A sudden chill bumped up my arms. "No, he's at work." "Why? Good. Don't call him. Don't text him. Do not tell your husband a single word about this call," Arthur warned, his voice trembling violently. "I need you to meet me at the old diner on Route 9 in 20 minutes. Come alone, Claire. If you bring Liam, or if you tell him I called, you will ruin any chance you have of surviving that house." Before I could ask a single question, the line went completely dead. I stood frozen in the middle of our beautiful new kitchen. My heart was hammering against my ribs. My first instinct was to call Liam. He was my protector, my partner. But the sheer, unadulterated terror in Arthur's voice stopped me. The old man wasn't malicious, he was frantic. If this was a prank, it was a deeply twisted one. If it wasn't, I needed to know what he was hiding. Grabbing my raincoat, I slipped out of the house without leaving a note, my mind racing with 100 horrific possibilities. The secret in the basement. The diner was nearly empty, smelling of stale coffee and rain. Arthur was sitting in a dim booth at the very back, wearing a heavy coat with the collar pulled up. When he saw me slide into the booth across from him, he closed his eyes in what looked like profound relief. "Thank God you came alone," he muttered, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold his coffee mug. "Arthur, you are terrifying me," I said, leaning across the table. "What is going on? We love the house. Why can't I tell Liam?" Arthur stared at me, his eyes hollow and dark. "Because the house doesn't belong to you, Claire. And it didn't belong to me. It belongs to a private estate. And 5 years ago, my wife didn't die of natural causes. She vanished inside that house." I recoiled, a wave of nausea hitting me. "What are you talking about?" "The locked door in the basement," Arthur whispered, leaning closer. "It's not plumbing blueprints. It's an entrance to a subterranean bunker built beneath that property in the 1960s. When I bought the house 30 years ago, I didn't know it was there either. But 5 years ago, my wife found the mechanism. She went down there, and she never came back up." Tears filled the old man's eyes. "I called the police, but they found nothing. No signs of foul play. But a week later, I started receiving typed letters in my mailbox. Letters containing specific details about my daily routine, what I ate for breakfast, what I said to myself when I was alone in the living room. Someone, or something, is living directly beneath that house, Claire. They use hidden viewing slits built behind the old drywall to watch everything. Then why sell it to us?" I demanded, my voice rising in a panic. Why put us in danger? Because they forced me to. Arthur cried softly, covering his face. The letters told me that if I didn't sell the house to a young couple before the end of the year, they would come upstairs for me. I was trapped, Claire. I'm an old man, I couldn't fight them. But I purposely kept the price low so someone would buy it quickly, and I kept the padlock on the door to buy you time. My breath hitched. Time for what? Arthur grabbed my wrist, his grip surprisingly tight, his pale face inches from mine. The letters always specified a young couple. Do you know why? Because Liam looks exactly like the man who built that house in 1965, a man named Thomas Vance, who went mad and supposedly died in that bunker. The people watching you don't care about you, Claire. They wanted Liam. They engineered this. And today is the 7th day. On the 7th night, the lock on the basement door is opened from the inside. # the 7th night. The drive back to the house was a blur of blinding rain and pure panic. Arthur's words echoed in my head like a death sentence. They wanted Liam. Today is the 7th day. *. I tried calling Liam's cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. The storm must have knocked out the cell tower near his office. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the sun had completely set, plunging the property into pitch blackness. The house stood tall and menacing against the stormy sky, no longer looking like a dream, but a massive, wooden trap. I ran through the front door, slamming it behind me. Liam, I screamed, my voice echoing through the empty halls. Liam, where are you? No response. The house was deathly quiet, except for a faint, muffled thudding sound coming from deep below. My stomach dropped. The basement. I grabbed a heavy metal flashlight from the kitchen drawer and ran toward the basement stairs. The air grew progressively colder with every step I took into the damp, concrete darkness. I shone the flashlight down the long corridor, toward the heavy oak door at the end. My heart stopped. The heavy brass padlock was sitting on the concrete floor. It hadn't been cut. It had been unlocked. The heavy oak door was standing wide open, revealing a dark, concrete staircase leading down into absolute nothingness. Liam, I cried, sprinting down the corridor and peering into the dark abyss of the bunker. From the darkness below, I heard a voice. It was Liam's voice, but it sounded distant, hollow, and strangely monotonous. Claire, come down here. Look what I found. It's amazing. I raised the flashlight, shining the beam down the stairs. The light illuminated a concrete room filled with old, dusty monitors, filing cabinets, and dozens of recent photographs of me and Liam taped to the walls. Photos of us sleeping. Photos of us eating breakfast. And standing in the center of the room was Liam. But he wasn't looking at me. He was staring at an old, leather-bound journal open on a steel table. Next to him stood an old, decrepit wooden chair with heavy leather restraints, stained with old, dark fluid. Liam, we have to leave right now. I screamed, stepping onto the first stair. Slowly, Liam turned his head to look at me. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, and completely vacant. But it wasn't just his expression that terrified me. It was the fact that behind him, casting a long, twisted shadow on the wall, the heavy steel door to a deeper room in the bunker was slowly swinging open. And a tall, shadowy figure was stepping out into the light, holding a rusted set of keys that rattled in the damp air. Liam didn't move. He just smiled a terrifying, unfamiliar smile. We're finally home, Claire. Realizing that the man standing before me might already be lost to whatever madness lived beneath our feet, I made a choice. I didn't run down. I lunged backward, grabbed the heavy oak basement door, slammed it shut with all my might, and threw the heavy deadbolt from the outside. The screams that immediately erupted from the other side of the door weren't just Liam's. There were two distinct voices, shrieking and clawing at the wood. Holding my breath, I ran up the stairs, locked the house, and drove straight to the police station. The house was finally ours, but the horror of what lay beneath it would haunt me for the rest of my days.